Here are some things about the 1% of Americans. Let's talk about it. The top 1% in America earns at least $480,000 per year, according to a 2018 released IRS data that compiles earnings and taxes paid from 2015. While that 1% of Americans make about 20% of all dollars earned in America, they pay 39% of all taxes paid to the American government. This disproportionate share of taxes paid is a result of America's progressive tax brackets. The top 1% pay a much higher percentage of their income to the IRS, a 27.1% rate for the average 1%er versus a 14.34% rate for the average taxpayer. But the IRS data is fascinating because it does a thorough breakdown within that top 1%. So imagine that top 1% is represented by 1,000 people standing in a room. Of those 1,000 people, 100 people, the top 0.1% of all taxpayers, pay 19.5% of all taxes in the US. So, of the 39% of all taxes paid to the top 1% as a group, about 50% of that is paid by just 1 in 10 of those people. And this trend repeats itself. If we again imagine that the top 1% is represented by 1,000 people in a room, 10 people, the top 0.1% of all taxpayers, pay 8.75% of all taxes in the US, almost 50% of the entire amount paid by the top 0.1%. If we imagine that just one of those 1,000 people represents the top 0.001% of all taxpayers, that single person pays 3.53% of all taxes paid in the US, about 40% of the entire amount paid by the top 0.1%. In absolute numbers, this 0.001% reflects only 1,412 of the wealthiest taxpayers in America, who made at least $59.38 million that year. Essentially, 1/10 of each group pays about half of the total taxes paid for that entire group. Another interesting trend is that the very top taxpayers, the 0.001%, actually pay a lower tax rate than the top 1% overall. While the top 1% pay an average federal rate of 27.1%, the top 0.001% pay an average rate of 23.93%. This trend has largely been consistent over the last 10 years. Why is there a lower rate for the very, very few at the top? The answer likely rests in how that group is able to make so much money, at least $59.38 million in annual income. Unlike someone in the 1% who might make the majority their $480,000 per year through very high wages, highly paid doctors, lawyers, and business and financial executives, the top 0.001% almost certainly derives a large portion of their income from business profits. Whether they are the owners of a large portfolio of public stocks, investors in real estate or other private ventures, or direct owners and managers of highly profitable businesses, these owners and large shareholders likely make a large portion of their money as capital gains, which is taxed at the 20% rate instead of the 37% individual tax rate. Changes in the 27 Tax Reform and Jobs Act may widen this difference in the average tax rate paid by the top 0.001% and the average 1%er. One reason is that the additional cash for American corporations through new lower corporate tax rate and the ability to bring cash from overseas back into the US at lower tax rates may lead to an increase in share buybacks, which raises prices and increased profits for shareholders in American corporations. Another potential benefit to business owners is a 20% tax discount on income generated from pass-through entities. Less money owed by the top 0.001% of taxpayers is not necessarily a bad thing for the overall economy, especially if that savings money is redeployed through investments in new businesses that stimulate economic growth. However, a survey released in 2018 from the National Association for Business Economics casts some doubt on some additional stimulus is possible or likely to compensate for rising budget deficits. A majority of economists, 52%, now consider the US government's fiscal policy to be too stimulative, up 32% since 2017. Moreover, 86% of economists now think that the most probable outcome of the government's current tax and spending policies is that it will increase the deficit budget of the GDP. So what are your thoughts? Do you want to be part of the 1% someday? If you like this video, hit that like button and consider subscribing. I talk about money and everything related to it, so don't miss out. And as always, take care of your money.